Hello, I'm Doug Benedict, and welcome to the Butler Esports interview series, where we're interviewing sports leaders, owners, and industry experts in the evolving world of esports. Today's interview is with Mark Koski, CEO of Nfhs Network, Director of Marketing of the Nfhs, received his Bachelor's of Science and Physical Education, Master's of Science in Sports Administration from the University of New Mexico. Mark, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Doug. Thanks for having us, and really appreciate you all doing these interview series. It's pretty neat.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us. So getting right into it, how did you get your start professionally?
Yeah, so I'm currently in my 13th year at the Nfhs, but prior to that, as you mentioned, I went to the University of New Mexico, and was real fortunate to be part of their track and field team and study physical education and eventually sport management. Right after college, I was a teacher coach at a local high school in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and enjoyed that. Loved the interaction with the individual students, and loved the education part, the teaching part, I should say. But the coaching part was amazing as well. Did that for 4 years, and then had the opportunity to work for the New Mexico Activities Association, which is the governing body for high school sports in New Mexico at the high school level. And so I was there for 4 years, and then, like I said, I moved to Indianapolis here 13 years ago and been part of the Nfhs team. And it's been just such an honor to be a part of the Nfhs, to represent 19,500 high schools nationally. That's what we do, and we try to obviously you put out great programs for them, work with coaches, work with officials, and come up with the rules for high school sports and activities.
Awesome. So that answers my next question too, is how you got there. So we'll jump right in. So what is the mission of Nfhs, right? What do you said it a little bit. What do you strive to do? What do you?
Yep. So the mission of the Nfhs is to help our member state associations. And so those of you who are in Indiana probably know the IHSA, the Indiana High School Athletic Association. Or, Doug, you were saying you grew up in Ohio, it's kind of some of your roots in the past. And so the OHSA, the Ohio High School Athletic Association, again, we have 51 state associations, so all 50 states plus DC. And the mission for us is to help those individual state associations to come up with content, education practices, the rules for all sports, as well as guidelines for activities. So pretty much any after-school activity, that's what the Nfhs does and puts together to help with the programming at the high school level.
So moving forward in that realm, right? How do you grow those partnerships with those areas? Is it continued work on rules, or are you creating new programs and pitching them to these other organizations or associations?
Yeah, each and every year, as you know, there's seniors that leave, there's freshmen that come in. And so we constantly are looking at safety measures to make sure, that we have all of our rules that are up to par when it comes to safety. Obviously, this is a big time with COVID-19 and how we can make the games as safe as possible for all those participants. And so we're constantly looking at best practices for individual state associations and schools, because when you have 12 million student participants every year, that's a big undertaking. And so we really want to put out the best programming, the best education practices for our coaches. So ultimately, it's the benefit of the students long term. These are our future leaders. All of our students within the high school activity world are our future leaders, and they're going to be the ones that'll be our presidents, and leaders down the road. And so, how can we make sure that what they're doing now is the best as possible, and give them all the keys for success currently.
So in that same realm, what's very interesting coming from this college program background that I guess I have, where does conduct enforcement kind of come up in your responsibilities in your organization?
Yeah, so for us, leadership is an important thing. So in terms of trying to teach our future leaders ways to be the best citizens as possible. Conduct is important. We want to make sure that our teamwork and our presence among those individuals goes as high as possible. And so that's a huge thing, that we teach, and we lean upon our teacher coaches. We have 1.6 million coaches that are out there, for all sports and activities, esports, and those individuals are helping our future leaders, become, these lifelong positive citizens. And that's definitely a part of it is conduct.
Absolutely. Very interesting. So your role specifically in the organization, what are your roles, I guess? What do you do day to day, and what are your goals?
That's a great question. So CEO of the Nfhs network. The Nfhs 7 years ago started the Nfhs network. It was all about showcasing and capturing the live games in which students are a part of. And so this next year we'll have 250,000 games that will be live produced on the Nfhs network. And those are Tuesday night volleyball games, Friday night football games, esport competitions, all of those that happen at the high school level. So 250,000 games will be on the Nfhs network, and that's a huge part of what we do. And so, as mentioned, we have a great staff that puts together those events and works with our schools to produce those individual games on a national scale. So all states are part of that. So that's the main focus of what I do. So I tell you what, just a pleasure to work in sport each and every day and be a part of what these students are doing, and hopefully, of course, part of their lifelong positive success.
Awesome. So you kind of alluded to it earlier, right? But COVID-19 and the whole situation we're in now with it, how has that interrupted, provided opportunity? What does it look like to your organization?
Yeah, so obviously it's hit us all, just by surprise in the last 3 months, and so we now, of course, at our place now. How does the long term look, with this? And prior to maybe a vaccine coming out or whatever else, we're working with our state associations and schools based upon best practices, social distancing, of course, all the terms that we all know that we didn't know 4 months ago, it feels like. And so it's definitely has hit the activities and events world hard, but I tell you what, it's nothing that we can't overcome. And so working with our sports medicine advisor committee and getting best practices from them of how eventually we can get schools and teams back out on the courts and the fields and into the competition sector. And so a huge part of what we're doing right now, of course, is getting ready for August as back to school happens, and hopefully those games resume. But if we can get these teams together and these coaches that are working with these teams, like I said, they can teach them how to be these future leaders and success stories.
Absolutely. So you yourself, who do you lean on for advice, consulting in this world of esports specifically? Because there isn't really a degree program in esports, and there isn't, the number one expert in the field, right? It's so new. So are there people that you look to give you advice when addressing these things?
For sure. Well, I definitely commend, what Butler's doing. I mean, Terrence, you are a leader nationally, and I'm excited that, hey, it's only, 5-6 miles from our office is Butler, and working with your crew and staff there has been a real honor to bounce ideas off of. So for the Nfhs, we work with a company by the name of Play Versus. They're based out of Los Angeles, and they definitely have been with the Nfhs leaders in the high school world of esports. And so work with that team at Play Versus. I feel we know education and we know schools very well. They know esports very well. And so when you bring the two together, it's a great mix. And, our goal long term is that every school is going to have an esports team in which could be a part of this great new activity within the high school world and other sectors as well.
Awesome. So what do you consider, in esports specifically, the greatest opportunities for high schools, right? Is it, improved engagement of students? Is it this new arena of competition? Is it curriculum? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I'd say all the above. I mean, these are individuals that currently are not participating usually in outside sports or other activities. So we're finding a new student, that's coming to the participation world for us. And that's an honor. That's what we love. Like I said, we have 12 million student participants. How do we get to 13 million? And I think esports is one of those ways that's going to help us get to 13 million students. We're all about after-school participation. So if these students are under the direction of a teacher coach, whether it be any sport activity, esports, hey, it just grows the overall number of future leaders that we're going to have out there.
Absolutely. So in competition, kind of like I just mentioned, what have you all at Nfhs gotten right about this competition, or what do you think you do better in your events or in your competitions?
Yep. So for us, esports is 2 years old. We started a couple of years ago, and now that we have 21 states that currently are participating in esports at the high school level, and they have state championship events. That's what it's all about. Those championships, those kids work hard all year long, get placed in a bracket, a tournament bracket, and then ultimately, we're going to have a state championship for them to hold up that state championship trophy for their school and represent their school through the esports. And so I believe that we've done that really, really well. Our coaches out there are working with those students on a daily basis to build those teams and to togetherness, and so, as those kids are growing within this world, it's making them, hopefully these champions on the field, so to speak, within the esports world, but off as well.
So, you just said 2 years, right? And I've already said, it's brand new. So where do you think that area of growth is in these events and in these championships and in these competitions that you're putting on? Where do you strive to make it better?
Yeah, so I would say we're going to get all states will be a part of esports long term, and that's a good thing. And again, how do we get 1 million high school players in esports? And so that's what we're working for every day as we get more games, more teams, out there, bigger computer labs for these schools to utilize and bring more kids involved. That's our growth opportunities, and hopefully over the next several years, we do another one of these interviews. We'll see that number to that million mark of high school students. Again, 19,500 high schools. There's such a great opportunity, and esports seems like it's a great way again to help us with those overall participation numbers long term.
Absolutely. So back to kind of not so much conduct, but your role in policy making. Title IX, how does that affect not just esports per se, but what you do with the associations throughout, I guess, your entire job, throughout your entire mission as Nfhs?
Yeah, so opportunities with your Title IX is important to us. We want to make sure we have the same number of opportunities for both the boys and the girls side. Whatever else, we love esports because it's one that on your team you can have both boys and girls, and our goal is to see how we can grow the number of girls within esports. Right now, we're about 80% to 20%, 80% being boys, 20% girls. How do we get that number 50-50? There's 12 million students that participate. But the unfortunate thing, there's not 6 million boys and 6 million girls. It's off by about 1.5 million. And so as we look for new opportunities such as esports to hopefully bring that number, to be exactly even, that's our ultimate goal. It is always at the forefront of our thinking and something that we're growing towards each and every day.
Absolutely. So, and you just said it yourself, how does Nfhs continue to grow, in your organization, right? Are there more schools that you're getting to? You've said more students. Is it more events? Is it bigger championships? Is it what you've already alluded to essentially?
Yeah, for sure. All those things. All about, how do we just provide a better environment for students? Bigger events, championships, more fans, more activities, esports being one of those. And so as we have more opportunities, more than 12 million students could be participating, we're all for that. We love the traditional sports. That's great. But outside the box thinking is great as well. And because, again, as long as it's within the school setting under the direction of the teacher coach, to me, it's a positive thing and it's great for students. And that's where we're headed.
So with your organization specifically, when we look at esports programs at these high schools, are students themselves paying into something? Are monetarily, are they paying into the school and then schools are paying you, or is it them to you directly since this is such a new situation?
Yeah, how it works for us, generally students themselves do not have to pay, and that's a great thing. So the schools are actually paying the fee. It's a $64 fee for a 4-month season, and schools are picking that tab up for those students. That's much less than a lot of our athletic events, and so the $64 is a steal, so to speak, and so that ends up actually being paid to Play Versus, who owns the platform and has the relationship with the publishers, and then in turn, those students have the opportunity to play all the way through up to the state championship event, and I tell you what, over the past years, they have absolutely just loved it, and we have loved it because we see the smiles on students' faces and the engagement that's happening. It's just an honor, and to have been part of this from day one 2 years ago with implementing esports. I tell you what, dream come true for us.
Absolutely. Kind of on that as well, and maybe in what you've experienced personally, do high schools or these programs ever have issue with reaching the requirement of technology, I guess, if that makes sense? Do you see high schools struggling to get the right equipment?
And actually, I asked that question last year, if there was any schools that were not able to participate because of lack of technology. Of the 5,000 schools, not a one were not able to participate. And I tell you what, to us, that said it all. They had the minimum requirements in order for them to participate in all the games. And so obviously we'd love to have larger computer labs. If we had more computer labs, more students, and so on. So as we work with businesses out there, hopefully they come to play. We have bigger computer labs. It's more students that are participating. But through internet, lag speed, and all that type of stuff, it has been spot on, and we're really, really pleased about that.
That's awesome. So, we've talked about, well, I have maybe mentioned the curricular side. Do you have a hand in what this, I know you spoke about teacher coaches. Do you have a hand in curricular programming whatsoever? Or is that just, something you bolster in your messaging?
Yep, yeah, that's actually a huge thing for us. So we do have a packet of information that we do give the teacher coaches that will help with the curriculum base. And some schools are looking at, how do we put this within our daily schedule, in terms of, can this be a class versus just an after school activity? And so we do have information for them to help with that. As schools look to implement this between 8 a.m. and 2:30 every day, and we would love for that. There's a huge curriculum that happens with esports. It's great after school, but can we implement it during the day as well? And so, yeah, we have all that material for these coaches to utilize and to push their local superintendents and school boards to change a little bit, and we have a few that's taken advantage, but not enough at this point. So hopefully we'll get more down the road.
Yeah. So parents, obviously, these students, not like college students. A lot of these college students have moved out. They live on campus. They live right around campus, right? But in high school, I was living with my parents in high school. What has the reception been on that side? Do you know? Because I've, doing my own little research, I've seen that you have a document for parents to read that explains what esports is. And, I wish I had that when I was younger to say, hey,
yeah,
Mom, look at this, But does that, do you see, have you seen pushback? Have you seen acceptance?
A ton of acceptance, right now. I think they see their son or daughter that's participating in this right now, and so to have something that reassures them of what they're seeing, such as that document you referred to, has been very, very good. And hey, I think it's been good. Let's just say it that way. It's been a success with parents. There are ones that are helping us kind of get more students, and so. As we try to grow this thing and get to that million number long term, we need parents out there to support, the home life, as well as every day after school, getting them there and picking them up from practices and tournaments and so on.
Absolutely. So Butler and other colleges like Butler, we have these programs. How can we craft those partnerships with high schools? Some people want to pursue esports professionally, right? And, if we're looking at this as like a traditional sports, funnel sort of situation, then we're looking at, people coming up from high school, playing in college programs, and, being seen in a bigger stage, right? So what is the role that like we can play here in, making our brand known, getting those partnerships, connecting with high schools?
I think doing things just like this in terms of you all are one of the leaders out there in terms of nationally with esports, and obviously looking at what the high school world is doing. And as the students are coming up and looking at colleges and universities, you are, to me, in the right position. And again, your faculty that you've put behind this and what you all are looking at, your lab and so on. I tell you what, talk to many universities and I was going to say what. You just the leaders. I'd say the Butler is the leaders. I mean, I've just got so many good things to think about and say about Butler, about what you all are doing to be the forefront of esports. And this is a new concept. We all know that. And there's a lot of folks that just don't quite understand it. But to me, how you all are putting it out, again, doing things like this, has really, really helped to break some of those thoughts out there that, esports is just games. It's far from that. It's these students coming together and learning all the team-based concept and how to win and how to lose and, those type of things and the curriculum behind it. Butler, you all are doing a great job, and I commend you for that.
Well, thank you. We very much appreciate it. So from your personal standpoint, what you see in the future, be the fortune teller for us for a second, 3 to 5 years, where do you see the industry of esports, maybe as a whole, maybe in high school, maybe in college, what have you?
Yeah, from our perspective, we hope all 19,500 high schools are participating in esports, and they've got 50 kids that are a part of it, and there's a lot of different games for them to choose from. So that's the lens that we have to look at from the high school world. But we're starting to see it more and more on TV each and every day, and that's a great thing. And so that gets us really jazzed up for the future about where this is going and what students ultimately want to have as well. And so that's kind of my thinking behind esports. I'm just glad that we're at the high school level. We'll be able to be a part of it from kind of the start, of things and to watch it grow, just like all the other traditional sports have grown over the past 100 years. Their participation numbers each and every year continue to climb, and we're seeing that within esports as well.
Absolutely. So last question we ask everybody coming on here. You have provided us with a very unique view of all of this from a high school lens that we haven't had yet. So what are 2 other industry professionals that you can throw under the bus for us really quick and tell us, who are they? How can they give us, these interesting perspectives?
I would say the first one would be Dr. Carissa Niehoff. Dr. Carissa Niehoff is the executive director of the Nfhs and such a leader when it comes to just the high school sports and activities world. So she's been our executive director for the past 2 years. And so she would be the first one that I would lean upon for sure. And then from there, I mean, I can't give you a particular name, but anyone within the city of Indianapolis, maybe that's coming together for esports. Indianapolis is trying to be a hub for esports, which is great. I'm glad I'm a part of that. And so many people within the community, and I don't want to pinpoint just one, but many people in the community that are trying to be at the forefront of this. And again, Indianapolis is doing a great job with being that. It's great. I think Butler is the one that's really leading the way for that, to bring this group of community together. And so, someone like that, I think would just be great for you all to have on this as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for those suggestions. That brings us to the end of this interview session. We want to thank you, Mark, for being here and everything that you do for our upcoming leaders and these high school students. CEO of Nfhs. You also said director of marketing for Nfhs as well. Thank you for providing your many hats of perspective. Stay well, stay healthy, and go Dogs.
Thanks, Doug. Great job on this. Appreciate that. And keep working hard, Butler. You all are amazing.